All right, everyone. We are live here today from Beyond the Woodline in my little home, and have very special guests and Osborne Walls. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know we've met in person before. Actually met out in San Euston Forest.
Yeah.
Did we meet at the Huntsville?
Yes, we
Uh,
did.
okay, I met so many people there. Um, which was pretty cool. It was sad we couldn't do it this year because
I
I wanted to
know.
go. Yeah, but there's other conventions here in Texas. Is the Jefferson one still on?
It sure is.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it to that one. I know I saw it. I'm gonna try to make it to that one. If I got time off, I'll definitely go.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working so much, but at this point in time, we lost so much work because of the COVID stuff, and
Yeah.
so right now I'm taking everything I can get. Um, so tell us everyone about you, for the few people who don't know who you are.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Well, I'm just someone who I've always been interested in Bigfoot, and since I was a kid, me and my sister used to watch Legend of Boggy Creek over and over just to get the crap scared out of us. I grew up outdoors. My mom was a professional fisherwoman. So we spent a lot of time on the lakes and rivers and camping and all kinds of things. But I never really got into the Bigfoot thing until about 2011 is when I had an encounter on my own property.
Okay.
And ever since then, I've just been, I mean, I don't know what I can say and not say on this show, but I've been balls to the wall ever since.
Yeah. Well, we're all grown ups.
Okay, good. I have a few friends that don't like the cursing. I'm like, well, you probably won't like me then.
Yeah. Ricky Weaver says hi, Ann.
Hey, Ricky.
But yeah, so I don't know how much details you want to give. Of course, we've talked about that. But what happened on your encounter? If you don't mind talking about that.
No, I don't mind at all. I'll make it as short as possible because it's quite a lengthy story. Only because certain things have happened that when you look back in hindsight, you go, maybe that's what's going on. But my husband and I were putting up a fence on the front of our property. We live in what I call country city. We live in the country, but all of our acreage lots are long and narrow. So I have neighbors right on top of me, but we all have acreage. And so my husband, Kenny, his parents used to live behind us. Mm-hmm. And they were coming home one day, and we're up front putting up the fence. And they're going down the driveway, and I wave hi to them. And they're going down the driveway, and their driveway runs alongside our property. So they're going down the driveway, and I'm just watching them, and I saw something come out from behind their house. And what I saw was very tall. It was all black, but it was skinny. And I thought, well, that's odd. I don't know what exactly I'm looking at. And it was super fast. And my neighbor next to me, she had just bulldozed all these trees off her backyard because she wanted to create a farm. So she had all these piles of trees in her back property. And this thing jumped over a pile of trees. And I just remember just sucking in my breath going, oh, and my husband was like, what's wrong? He thought he got me with a screw or something. And I said, oh my God, I just saw somebody. I said, somebody run from behind your parents' house into the woods. And he said, well, what happened? And I said, I don't know if I'm looking at a person or what I'm looking at. And I described it to him because it made no sense in my head that something was that fast that cleared that pile of trees and was all black. I couldn't make out any features. I couldn't make out clothing. I couldn't make out anything. So we kind of just brushed it off, but my mind is reeling. What in the heck did I just see? And so he went to the barn to cut down one of the boards because the boards are 12 foot long, but they're actually 12 foot 1 inch. And the more you go down the fence, the more your boards grow. And he had to go to the barn and cut one down. And I was laughing at him because he's walking across the yard and here's this 12-foot board on his shoulder and it's flopping around and he's going like this and he's just acting goofy. That's his normal self. And then all of a sudden, here it comes again. And this time it ran back behind the house and I yelled, "There it is, there it is." And he took off running. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" I knew what I was looking at that time. I mean, what else could it be?
Okay.
And so he ran back there. He told his mom and dad, someone might be casing your place. And so he and his nephew took off into the woods and they didn't find anything. Well, the next night, we had just come out of a drought and we were still under a burn ban, but we were allowed to burn in those little fire pits,
right?
The little things. So we were out front. Now, mind you, at this time, we lived in an RV on this property because we were eventually going to build a house. Took us years later, but we got it done. Yeah. And we're sitting out there. It's pitch dark out here. We don't have street lights. It's dark out here. And so we're sitting outside and we're just talking. And then we see someone walking down the street. A neighbor down the road used to have a security light on their gate. And this head was bobbing, up and down in this light. And you could see the light in the head, the light in the head. And I thought, oh my gosh, that has to be someone super tall because that light is like 7-8 feet up in the air. And so we started yelling that maybe it was my neighbor's kid. His name is Tony. And at the time, he was just a kid and he was 6 feet tall already. And so we were yelling, "Tony, Tony." And this thing did not respond, didn't even look at us. And it just walked in between my neighbor's house and their neighbor's house. So Kenny takes off running again. And I'm yelling at him, "You fool, what are you doing?" And so he goes and knocks on the neighbor's house and they're all sitting there eating dinner. And he said, "Well, someone just went in between your house." And so then he went to the other neighbor and got them and they went out looking. They didn't see anything. Well, listen, I really didn't want these things to exist. I don't, because it changes your world. It changes the way that you see the woods. I grew up in the woods, well, on the lakes, really. I grew up camping and fishing. And now I look at the world in a much different way. But I didn't want to believe it. I don't know what else it could be. And then I started getting reports on my street. And when someone who doesn't know you, who doesn't know what you do, and someone you don't know, when they describe the exact same thing that you saw, that's validation.
Right.
It's also extremely disturbing because, like I said, I don't want these things to exist. And I've had people across the street see it walk down their driveway. One called me at 3:30 in the morning and said, "Get your ass out here now," at 3:30 in the morning. He said, "I just saw something walk down my driveway. Its proportions were odd, and it was all black. And this guy was an ex-Army Ranger."
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have all these reports in my little tiny little area. We live on a dead end street. Every street in my neighborhood is a dead end. There's like 3 or 4 streets. I don't even know. They're all dead ends. And if you Google map my house, you'll see nothing but woods for miles and miles and miles and miles. So it's perfect. Everybody has a stock pond. People have animals around here. People have feed around here. So you have your water source, you have your cover, and you have easy food pickings around here.
Hmm.
So why not?
Right.
You know? But yeah, even after having seen it a couple of times in my neighborhood, I still feel the need to go out and just confirm, I guess. Even though I know what I saw,
Right.
I still feel the need to go out there and see it one more time.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an addiction.
And even if you see it again, is that going to be enough for you, or you got to see it
No.
again? Yeah, you got to see it again and again, right?
Yeah, I think so, because that makes no sense. This animal makes no sense. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's huge. It's elusive. How come we can't find a body? How come we can't get a decent picture? How come we can't get decent video? I'm not out to prove it to anyone. It's just for myself. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of what my whole outlook is. I just it's for myself. If I can prove it, fine.
Yeah,
But but for me, it's just for my own validation. So,
absolutely.
so let me ask you this: what were your thoughts on the subject beforehand? Did you ever give it any kind of thought at all?
Oh yeah. After I saw Legend of Boggy Creek, I thought only one existed in the whole world, and it lived in Arkansas. I mean, I was a kid, and I can remember we went on a. My mom had a bass tournament. I don't remember where we were going, but we had to go through Arkansas, and it was my job to write down the gas mileage and or the miles and figure out gas mileage. My dad used to own a service station, so it was my job to get out, pump the gas, and do all that. Well, I told my mom, make sure you wake me up when we get to Arkansas. And she said, why? I said, because I want to see Bigfoot. And she's like, oh, Ann. I'm like, what? Bigfoot lives in Arkansas. And so I remember my parents went inside the store. I'm sitting there pumping gas, and I kept looking across the street. It's all woods. I kept looking. I got so scared. I ran into the car, and I didn't finish pumping the gas. And I pretty much remained scared ever since then. And I have never really studied up on the subject that much until I moved here to Huffman. I moved here in 2009, I think it was. I suck at years. I'm serious, I do. I think it was about 2009 that I moved here. And I've never, well, my dad, I spent time with my dad in Rye, Texas, which is the big thicket. But I didn't grow up in the woods. So moving here was quite a little culture shock for me. I'm from Houston. I'm a city girl.
Yeah.
I freely admit it. I'm a city girl, but I love the country.
Right.
But when I moved here is when I kind of started getting into it a little bit more. But when I had my encounter, it was on like Donkey Kong.
It's funny you said Huffman. I went out there maybe a month ago to help my cousin move a wash machine, and she lived out in the middle of freaking nowhere in this trailer park, right?
Mm-hmm.
And dude, going down this little bitty winding road, it was spooky. And I said, "Oh, man, I wonder if there's any Squatch activity out here." But it's good that you said that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, dude, it was back there. And I was like, where the hell does she live, man?
Yeah. Did you hear banjos?
What was funny was like, it's a trailer park, and I drove right by it, didn't even see it.
Oh, really?
It was so dark. It was so
dark. You
mind
saying what road it was on, or do you know?
I can't remember the road. I don't remember the road. But yeah, it's funny, hearing your story and your encounters, and how this is like the first time I really heard it from you, and how it correlates with like so many other people who have had the same kind of stuff happen to them.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of justification.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for them. Listening at work in the belly of a plane, says Mark.
I saw Mark. I know Mark.
Yeah.
Mark came to Footstock last year.
So when did you actually start going out and like actually start, I don't know what to call it, research or investigation or just poking around? What was like when you?
Well, I'll tell you, when I had my encounter, I started going out on my property by myself.
Okay.
And then I started listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. And that ceased to happen after that. I started listening to Sasquatch Chronicles, and some of the stories that I heard and started learning about behaviors and patterns, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And so I stopped going out by myself. Well, it took me a long time to even do anything. Um, I think I was more like the cat, the curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like. I was just so curious about it, and I needed to know more. I had to know more. And I just started, let's see, who did I start? I think I started going out with Michelle and Russell Miller of Southeast Texas Bigfoot. I think that's when I first started going out. Oh, no, I know when it was. I know. We went to Yellow Dog Park over by the Sabine River. We met with the cast and crew of Killing Bigfoot.
Okay.
And that's where I met Michelle and Russell. I met a whole lot of people. Jason Kuntz, I met him there. Mike Woolley, that's the first time I ever met Mike Woolley. I went there to meet Mike Woolley because his story is the first one I ever heard on Sasquatch Chronicles, and it scared the crap out of me.
Right.
But I was really scared when I was there, and I'm thinking, these guys go out by themselves, and I was really scared. And I just started, I'm one of these people, like, if you're scared of something, you need to conquer that.
Right.
And so we started going out more and more. But I'm not Shelly Covington, Montana, and I am not camping by myself. It's not happening.
Yeah.
There's just no way. And when we went on this trip, this was 5-day expedition in Oklahoma. We were doing satellite camps, and I said, you know what? That's great. Y'all can do satellite camps all y'all want to, but I'm not camping by myself.
That's funny. Yeah, my sister kind of tells me the same thing. She's like, "How do you go out there by yourself?"
Nope. I'm also a believer in safety in numbers.
Yeah,
because it's more than just about Bigfoot.
Yeah. That's one of the golden rules I tell people, but I break it all the time. Don't go out there by yourself.
I know, and it's fine. You're probably armed to the hilt. But me, I don't have very much firepower.
Right.
So, I go out with Big Dog a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Big Dog, he's got ARs and AKs.
He's got everything.
I'm looking for a grenade launcher.
Yeah. If you ever had to disarm him, it'd probably be like trying to disarm Germany,
Yeah.
He's got everything.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that. How did you meet him? How did you guys come together? Do you remember?
I met him at the Texas Bigfoot Conference.
Okay.
And he introduced himself as Big Dog. I don't know him as Philippe or Felipe. I don't even know who that is.
Okay.
And I don't know. It took a couple of years, for us to really get to know each other. But he was over. I think we went out with Michelle and Russell, and he stayed the night over here. And Kenny approached me and said, "Hey, what do you think about making Big Dog a Squatch dog?" And I was like, no question about that.
Right.
Everybody loves Big Dog.
Right.
He's fun. He's funny. Everybody loves his truck. I mean, he's almost like I'm not trying to be mean, but he's almost like a novelty for Big Dog because everybody loves him.
Right.
So it was a no-brainer for us to say, bring him on.
Yeah, he's like this big character, and I don't mean that, disparagingly. I mean, I mean that with the biggest compliment ever. He's a character.
He is.
And, it's funny. We had always communicated on Facebook, but what the first place I actually met him at was at a gun show.
Are you serious? Yeah. That's not surprising.
Yeah, that's where I met him at. That's where we had talked about trying to get together and stuff like that for the longest time,
Yeah.
and this was, I don't know, close to 3 years ago. I would think maybe a little bit longer, but him and Lupe were, I had already met Lupe quite a few times at this point, and I was trying to meet, Felipe, well, Big Dog, 'cause I thought I would call him too was Big Dog. I was trying to meet Big Dog, and uh, I had told Lupe I was going to the gun show that that the George R. Brown, and if you wanted to go, and he said, well, let me see if Big Dog wants to go. I said, okay, so Lupe wound up not being able to go for whatever reason, but Big Dog's like, hey man, I'll show up there. So he said, okay.
Yeah.
So he shows up there and he winds up buying a shotgun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Probably that shockwave, huh?
I don't know if it was a shockwave or not. I can't remember which one he bought. Big Dog.
I shot that gun and it injured me.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, the safety. Let's see. The safety was on, I think, the side or the top. I don't remember. And when it recoiled, it took the skin off of my thumb.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you got to hold it tighter. I said, I am. I got bit by a dog really bad. And a black German Shepherd. So I like to tell people I got bit by a werewolf.
Yeah.
And
dog man.
Yeah, no, by a werewolf, because this dog looks like a wolf, dude. And so I said, I'm holding it as tight as I can. I don't have all the use of my hand since I got bit. So I tried to hold it as tight as I could. And boy, that recoil came back and skinned it again. I said, I'm done with shockwave.
That's funny.
And I wanted one of those. Oh my goodness. We have fun though. Me and Big Dog, when we get together. Mm-hmm. And then when we do our show, I said, we're never going to get any serious people on here. Because all we do is goof off. Oh, speak of the dog.
Yeah, that was the shotgun he bought.
The KSG 12 gauge. I don't even know what that is. KSG. I know what a 12 gauge is.
But that and his truck, of course. It's a toss up of which one's more popular. People when I meet people and they talk about the Bigfoot world, and they're like, "Yeah, there's a guy that has a black and white truck." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been in that truck. I know that truck."
I love his truck. I always tell him that's my future truck, so treat her right.
Treat her right. Yeah. So let's see, he said space gun. So what can you tell us about your last expedition that you went on?
I can tell you it was in Oklahoma. I can't tell you where because it's not my area, but I was invited, and there wasn't a whole lot that went on. Now, there is one thing I'm going to have to clarify, but we were all out at this one camp, and there's a creek that runs by it. Horrible for audio. But we wanted to be near the water to see if, anything would come through. And Shelly Covington, Montana, she was there with us. And she started doing these mouth pops. Now, she goes like, I can't do it. But they just echo the way she does it. It just echoes throughout the entire woods. Well, we thought we heard one back. So me and her and Stephen James and Logan Kraft, we walked down to the creek. And the one pop that we were getting back, we discovered it's the creek that's gurgling. Like it'll just pop, like going over a rock or something. Okay. But when she was standing there and she started doing mouth pops again, we were getting mouth pops back. Now, my FLIR had long since died, and it was charging again. So I ran up to get Steven's FLIR and handed it off. And I don't think they saw anything, but they were talking about those mouth pops, and I'm not sure if they were actual mouth pops or if it was the gurgling of the creek. But I thought it interesting that every time she did it, it happened back.
Right.
That was probably the second night there, I think. Well, the last night, it'd been pretty quiet, except we had a tree break. We thought it was gunfire at first.
Yeah.
And so we all have our guns, so we're not worried. And then someone said, I didn't hear an echo, like gunfire would sound. So we thought maybe it was a tree break. Well, the last night we were there, and haven't really shared this with a group, and I probably only going to know now. I was laying in my tent, and I could hear walking around my tent.
Hmm.
It sounded like heavy footsteps, like if someone was wearing boots. That's what it sounded like. You could hear it hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Well, Shelly had told me before, when something happens, you just need to lay there and be still. Don't say nothing. Don't move because you want to see what happens. So I just laid there, just listening. And it went away. So I yelled out to Logan because I knew he was still awake in his Bigfoot burrito. He sleeps in one of those hammocks.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that either. And I said, Logan, are you walking around? He said, no. He said, well, something's walking around over here. So I didn't think to get my FLIR, now that it's gone, get my FLIR out and look for residual heat.
Oh,
Perfect opportunity missed.
Right.
Screwed up. But I did hear little scurrying all night long.
Right.
And we heard some vocalizations. We still have to put them on the spectrogram to see what they are because we don't know. And see if we can't pinpoint what they are. But we were the only ones there. Labor Day weekend. And like I said, you have to have a 4x4 jacked up vehicle to get into this place, or you're not getting in. So that's a really good area.
Okay.
Really good area, and I'm a little bit jealous. That's not mine.
Right.
And it was closer. I wish it was closer.
Yeah, I was
You
gonna
don't
say.
have to worry about me because I'm not driving that far.
So, what are some other places that you've gone to that you've enjoyed going to?
I go to the Big Thicket a lot. We have an area out there that we go to quite often. Haven't really gotten anything, but Jerry Heston has told me some stories of things that he's gotten out in this area that I go to. And I thought, okay, I need to get off the main trails apparently and start doing some hiking if I want to see anything of substance.
So that day that we met up in the San Francisco Forest, me and you over there, and I had my daughter with me. We talked about a spot over there in the Big Thick. Was that the same area?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's an active area. And if you ask me, it can be kind of dangerous over there too, just from the people that I've talked to.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for.
I've talked to two people out there who've actually gone to that same exact area and had some very aggressive encounters.
Oh yeah. So, I'm waiting.
My next weekend off that I get, I'm gonna go up there to that same area.
Got you. Yeah. And the Sam Houston, I've been out there quite a bit, but I don't know. I don't know why. I just don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Even though there's some things that we'll talk about.
Right.
About the Sam Houston. That make you go,
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Well, I think I've told you, I personally have found like some tracks out there, some small tracks, 3-inch and 8-inch tracks, small tracks. Yeah. I found the 3-inch tracks probably about 4 years ago. There was 2 creeks, and each creek had one. So yeah, and I don't know how far those creeks are apart. Maybe 50 yards, maybe 75 yards apart. But each creek had a 3-inch track in it, one track. And then last summer is when I found the 8-inch track in one of the creeks.
Did you cast them?
No, I didn't have any casting material either time, but I got a picture of the 8-inch track.
It's so heavy to carry.
Right, it is.
That's a problem.
I put it in my backpack, and man, that stuff gets heavy. Yeah.
It is heavy. Plus, you've got to carry water.
Right. Yeah. The water and the casting material, I think it gets pretty heavy. Tell me about Squatch dogs.
Well, Squatch Dogs was born out of, let me see if I can remember the name, Southern Sasquatch Research, I think, organization. That was my first group. And that was when I was gung-ho. I'm going to find this sucker and we're going to have some fun. I'm going to get it to vocalize back to me and blah, 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 until I started listening to Sasquatch Chronicles, and then I changed my tune. So Squatch Dogs was born out of that. And originally, Squatch Dogs was meant to be a watchdog. And we were going to report on everything that everybody else did. We were going to be like your news source for all things Squatch. Right. But my curiosity started getting the better of me. And if you look at my logo, it says it's an addiction. It says it right underneath that. And that's what it is. It's an addiction, and I'm addicted, and I can't stop. And so it has since turned into, we're like a full-blown, we're everything. We're a research group. We do Mysterious Woods. That's our newest podcast. Me and Big Dog do that one. Then we have Sasquatch Sessions that we do. Sasquatch Sessions is more of it's supposed to be for people who don't want to be on a podcast, people who don't want to be on the radio, don't want to be on video. You just set a digital recorder down, you go to their house or wherever they're comfortable, you sit that recorder down and you just talk. And that's what it was supposed to be. And my very first one I did it with Lee Pike. He has since passed away. But it was at a Christmas party. And as we were sitting there talking in his living room, I had 3 or 4 people come in and go, oh, yeah, I was driving down in Louisiana and this thing crossed the road. These are stories that you wouldn't normally hear.
Right.
Because they're not going to go on a podcast and they're not going to tell people. No one can see them. Mm-hmm. They just hear them. No one knows who they are. And they just freely would tell their story. And so we got the idea at the conferences to set up as vendors and do video. So now I have a background. You can come in, sit in the chair. I'm going to video you and you can tell your story. So I've got 7 or 8 on YouTube right now from last year.
Oh,
and
wow.
We're going to do it again this year at the Texas Bigfoot Conference.
What's your YouTube channel? You want to give that out?
Squatch Dogs.
Okay.
That's all I know how to say. I can tell you at Squatch Dogs is my Twitter handle. I can tell you all this stuff, but when you ask me how to find me on YouTube, I don't know. Just look for Squatch Dogs.
There you go. So we kind of touched on something right now where we're talking. Well, you were talking about coming across these stories. Do you put yourself out there? Do people in your circle know what you do? Family, friends?
Oh yeah. I don't hide nothing. No.
Okay, good. Did you ever hide it at all, or did you?
No.
Okay.
No.
I used to not necessarily hide it, but I didn't broadcast it. Now I'm at the point, over the last couple of years, I'm like, I don't care who knows. But, I put myself out there, and something I talk about it religiously. You got to put yourself out there if you want to get some of these stories, because you'll get stories from people you never would have thought. And not only that, but then people who know what you do, they might go out there. If they see something big. Well, I'll give you an example. One of my old bosses, I worked at this company for 15 years. So everyone at my job knew what I did. He was getting a tattoo at one of these tattoo places. Mm-hmm. The guy who was doing a tattoo had to Finding Bigfoot or something on TV. His daughter was there, and she came and she asked her dad something about Bigfoot, And he was like, I don't know anything about Bigfoot, And he was telling the little girl. And so my boss said, well, there's a friend of mine at work. He's into Bigfoot. And, if you want me to ask him something, I'll ask him for you. So the guy's doing the tattoo says, well, my mom saw one in Oklahoma that, she saw one across the road and it stepped over a fence, Mm-hmm. It's stuff like that. People, when they realize what you do, they're almost your ears when they go out. They'll come back and they'll tell you stories.
That's right. And we've added a new menu on our website, and so we've decided to create a database of reports and sightings.
Okay.
And that's just for Squatch dogs. You know, like what's their name? NAWAC, like they have a database, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know anybody else that does. And I thought, golly, all of us Bigfooters, if we all had a website and we put our stories in a database and the locations, we would have so many freaking sightings. It would be, it's just crazy. Texas is just littered. And so the idea came, well, one from NAWAC, and two, we got a case in Woodville that's close to Livingston, right?
Right.
And I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? You know, it's great that I have it, and we still have yet to go camp out on our property. I told her, when it gets cold, we will go. We don't do hot. No. And so I have this great story. What am I supposed to do with it? Just keep it in my back pocket?
Yeah.
And so I asked her if I had permission to put it on my social media, and she said, yeah. And I said, well, what about my website? And she said, yeah. So I thought, I'm just going to put stories, but then I'm like, well, how are people going to search? And then I went, well, wait a minute. Why don't you just do a database just like NAWAC does?
All right.
You know, and then Craig Woolheater of TBRC, when he has cases in this area, he gives them to me. And he says, okay, this is the person that contacted me. This is where they are. Go check it out. And I'm like, cool. I don't get many, but, you know, he gives them to me, which I love.
Yeah.
You know, that he has confidence in me and my group to go be professional, you know, and take care of these cases. And just, people just want to tell their story, you know, whether it's real or not. People just want to be heard.
Yeah.
You know, so
Mm-hmm.
hope I didn't get off the subject too much.
No. But you know, we were talking about Falk and the legend of Boggy Creek. A friend of mine that I grew up with, they live right down the street from us, and we know just as we were little kids. And my sister one day told me, "Hey, go look at." I don't want to say her name. She goes, "Go look at her Facebook page. She posted something about Bigfoot." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah." So I looked, and she had this big thing written up how her mom had a stroke not too long ago, 2 really bad strokes, and she could barely talk. You know, she was pretty much immobile, and even when she talked, they couldn't really understand her. Mm-hmm. But she was watching the Bigfoot show, and she started talking about Bigfoot. You know, they couldn't really make out too much what she was talking about, but they were able to gather a bunch of information from her that she said when she was little that there was to be a Bigfoot that would come up to her house, you know, looking through the windows. It was on her property and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh shit, huh? And she was like, yeah. So I called her up and I said, hey, what's going on with your mom? And she started telling me the same thing. She's like, yeah, man, she found that, she said that growing up, there was a Bigfoot on their property. I'm like, man, I said, y'all never knew about this? She goes, no, we never knew about this ever, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, where'd your mom grow up at? She goes, she grew up in Arkansas. And I said, really? She goes, yeah. She said that this animal would come out of a creek called Boggy Creek.
Oh.
Yeah. I said, what? What? You know, she was right here under my nose all this time, and I never knew.
You just don't ever know, you know, until, like you said, you have to put yourself out there. I was promoting the very first Southeast Texas Bigfoot because, you know, I'm the MC for it. And I want just as many people there as they do. And so I was on the one of the Huffman for sale pages, and I was promoting it. And this woman just came on and said, hey, my kids and my husband saw Bigfoot down here at Lake Houston during the drought. That's the same time I had my encounter. And I said, here's my phone number, call me. I was like, wait, what? And we talked, and when she described what they saw, they said it was all black, it was skinny, and I was just like, oh my God, I saw what I saw. But You just never know what you'll be doing when that person comes along
Right.
and says, "Hey, I had an encounter, or I saw this, or I heard that." So that's why I put myself out there. I want these stories. I want these stories. You know what? You can have Sam Houston. It's all you. You know, I'm a hour away from either one, Sam Houston or Big Thicket.
Right.
Either way. And so, but I love the Big Thicket only because that's where my dad lived, and it's almost like home for me. But growing up, it's in a little town called Rye.
Mhm.
My aunt owned a cafe. So, you know, small towns, cafes, hear a lot of stuff. We also had three wheelers, and me and my brother, man, we used to tear those roads up. We used to tear them up. My uncle was a constable, so we got away with a lot of stuff. And we would go riding on that pipeline at nighttime. And when they start talking about old Mossy Back, I'm like, there ain't no Mossy Back, crazy old people. But in my mind, when we would roll down that pipeline, I could just picture a Bigfoot clotheslining us, sticking his arm out and you know, and I would let my mind, my imagination just get the best of me. And I'm like, I want to go home now. But I had a friend, her name was Leona Swartlick. We used to hang out. Me and that girl, she drove this beat up green car and she'd teach me how to drive in the ruts. You know, you're talking about East Texas red
Right.
dirt. And when that crap gets wet, it's not easy.
Right.
But we hung out all the time. So they didn't have electricity. And she slept in it was like a shed, is what it was. And that's where her room was. It was outside in the shed. And she would keep a kerosene lantern next to the door. Well, every Friday and Saturday night, we all went to the VFW and we went dancing. Of course, my dad was there, and her dad and her mom were there. You know, there were adults there, but that's what we did out there. Every Friday and Saturday night, we went to the VFW. But when we would come home, I always stayed the night with Leona. And pitch ass dark out there. I mean, your hands in front of your face, you can't see nothing. And she would grab that kerosene lantern, light it. We'd go into the shed, open up the windows, and you know, not one time did I ever think Bigfoot. Not one time do I ever remember hearing something like, "Oh, what was that?" You know. But I didn't know. You know, like they say the bionic whistle.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was back then.
Hmm.
So maybe I did hear it.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I wasn't scared. I was more scared of Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees, and that's who I was scared of back then.
Yeah, like I got some acquaintances near the Austin area. They've had land for like almost 30 years in their family, and just a few years ago they came up to me and they were telling me about all the stuff they've had happen on their land, and they never thought Bigfoot. You know, they
Yeah.
never, you know, um, everything from being paced in the woods, having rocks thrown at them. Um, there were the two young ladies were sleeping in the tent when they were like 10, 11 years old, and they came into the trailer because you know kids go out there to the country, they want to sleep in the tent, you know, outside, and the parents were asleep in the trailer, and they came in about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, screaming bloody murder. That there was a monster outside walking around their tent, and it pushed the tent down on top from the top, you know.
That's possible.
Um, One of the ladies that lived there, well, not lived there, but when they would go up there, her and her husband were laying in bed, and she heard like you know, some kind of noise like that, and she looked up, and she saw this figure standing in the window. She saw what she called, she said shimmering, but it was the eye shining, you know.
Yeah.
And she woke her husband up and said, "Hey, there's a man outside," and he went out there with his rifle, didn't see anything. And when I asked her how tall would this person have to be, she goes, "You know, you have to be about 7 feet tall. You know, the trailer's up on bricks."
Yeah.
And she's like, "So I'm 5'1", and I couldn't even look into the window. And when I asked her, well, how wide was he? She goes, he took up the whole window. That window's like 4 feet wide. He took up the whole window.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's typical, you know.
right. They they had several deer feeders out there. It was a nice little property. Uh, Someone they knew gave them posts like from stop signs. They worked for the city of Houston, so they
Hmm.
had some stop sign posts. They had like 3 legs, I think, but again, to make the deer feeders out of. And this, they put this stuff back in the woods. You can't even get a car back there, And I've been to this property. You can't get a car back there at all. I mean, you could walk back there, and that's about it. Uh, they put the deer feeder up there after they built it. They came back like a week or two later. All the legs were bent like in a U shape.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what else is going to do that? And they, like I said, they had all this stuff going on this property for all these years. They would hear the wood knocks. Uh, the woman, she heard something breathing real heavy outside the trailer one night. She had the door open. But they had the screen door. They had the main door open. And she said she heard something breathing really heavy coming up to the door. And she went and woke her husband up. He had a friend there with him, and she said, "Hey, there's a bear outside."
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so he ran out with his buddy. They both had rifles. They chased it back to the woods. And when he came back, all he said was, "I don't think that was a bear. I just don't think that was a bear." But that's all he told me.
Not on 2 legs.
Yeah.
And we have a kid down the street. There's so many reports that you would need probably another hour just for me to go through them with you
Right.
on my street. But there was a kid down the street at the time. I think he was about 16. He has 2 younger brothers, and they used to tell me things like something slapping the side of our house. Now they live in a brick house, so if something's hitting the side of a brick house, that's some power.
Right.
And they would tell me they keep hearing these screams, and I thought, well, we do have a big cat out here, so could be a big cat. Well, this was before we had the house built, and this kid comes over and he says, "I need to talk to you." And we sit down and we're facing the road, and he keeps turning around and keeps looking at the woods. I'm like, what's he doing? He sure is acting nervous. And he said that he went out to take the garbage out. It's out back. And out here, you have to have spring-loaded garbage can or tops because all the animals will get into it. So he put the garbage in, and he saw this possum down by the garbage can. But the possum wasn't looking at him. It was looking at something else, and it looked like it was just staring like it was in fear. And so he looked in the direction that the possum's looking, and he says, "And there it was." And I said, "And there what was?" He said, "There was this thing standing there on 2 legs, and we looked at each other for a couple of seconds, and it took off running towards the back of my property, and it jumped our 6-foot fence."
Damn.
And he ran inside and told his dad about it. And his dad was like, "Oh, that was a deer." And he's like, "Dad, it was on 2 legs." And it ran all the way on 2 legs to the fence and jumped over it on 2 legs and continued to run on 2 legs. And to that day, he said, no more hunting. And he doesn't go in the woods anymore. He refuses. And the whole time that we're talking, he kept turning around, looking. And he's like, "What's that right there?" I'm like, "It's a stump." He's like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "It's a stump." And he was so freaked out. And he moved out of this. As soon as he was 17, he was like, "Bye." And he wouldn't hunt anymore.
It's funny you talk about the stumps. I've had a few stumps scare me too.
Yeah. Did you draw a red circle around it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're taking pictures and you see something that might look like a Bigfoot, go back out there and take another picture. If it's still there, guess what? It's not a Bigfoot.
Yep. Yeah, I've got an interesting picture, and there's something there. And I went out there 2 weeks later, and I took Loopy out there, and whatever was there isn't there anymore. And I had him take a picture next to the tree for a side-by-side comparison. And he has his hand all the way up, and he's still got about another 6 inches.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
I mean, you did what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know? Even if you're in an area that you're only there for 3 days or whatever, and it's nearly impossible for you to go back, you take your pictures, review them before you leave the area. If you see something, go back while you're still there and take another picture.
Right.
Don't wait until you get home, and that's what we do. I review my game cam footage while I'm there, just to see. I put my game cam on video. I don't put it on picture. I put it on 30-second video because you want to see movement.
Right.
Is what you want to do. You want to see, what is it doing? Is it a bear? Because if you have the arm of something, what is it? Is it a hog? Is it a bear? Is it a person? You don't know, because all you have is this one dumb little picture. If you put your game cams on video for 30 seconds, you're more apt to catch something. But I don't review my recorders because I don't carry a laptop with a generator.
Yeah.
Looking at spectrograms. But everything else I review before I even leave.
Yeah.
It saves you a lot of heartache.
So, what would be your advice for people who want to get into this field, newcomers? What kind of advice would you have for them?
I would like for people to understand that while we do like to have some fun out in the field, this is not something that you should take lightly, only because, not just because of the Bigfoot aspect. I'm talking about other animals that do reside in the forest. You need to learn in your area what kind of animals you have. You need to learn their behaviors. You need to learn their vocalizations. You need to be armed at all times. You never know when a wild hog's gonna come up on you.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. And they're people ask me, what are you scared of in the woods? Number one on my list are hogs.
Yeah.
A sounder of hogs comes up on me, I'm probably done because I don't have enough firepower.
Right.
And that's another thing. Have enough firepower to be able to take care of yourself. Just be aware of your surroundings. If you, and I'm the worst one about this, but like Shelly, if she's fleering and she says, okay, I see something, she'll tell you, go walk towards it. And I'm like, you go walk towards it. I'm not walking towards it, but she'll do it. If you're fleering, you're like, okay, I see a hot spot. She'll say, where? Show me how to get there. And she'll go right up to it and say, well, it's a rock. So, but I think if you're doing stuff like that, you need to be aware of what it possibly could be. It could be a big cat, could be a bobcat, could be a hog, could be a person. Mm-hmm. But I just want people to be aware that the woods, a lot of creepy and disturbing things happen in the woods. And especially when it comes to other people. When you're traipsing throughout these uninhabited areas, especially in Texas, please be careful of grow fields. If you see a grow field, you turn your ass right around and you get the hell out of there. Look at Lupe says, I'm afraid of guns. You're so silly. But because the cartel is all out here.
Yeah.
And in the Sam.
Right.
I just want people to be armed and aware. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. More than anything. Don't think I'm going to go out to the woods and I'm going to hold hands with the friendly forest giant. We're going to skip along and sing Kumbaya, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah. You don't want him holding your hand.
No, he might rip it off.
Yeah.
It's an animal. Animals are unpredictable, as we all know. Mm-hmm. Treat it as such.
What would you say to them about taking care of the forest? I know you kind of partake in that a little bit.
Well, I used to do the social media for Sam Houston Trails Coalition, and I was asked to take that page down now. So I said, okay, I'll take it down. Now, I don't ask him questions. Why? I just do it. Um, Now, I'm about to bring in some conspiracy theorists. They're all about to perk up right now. There is definitely something going on, and I'm going to say it out loud because they already know who I am, and I don't care. There is definitely something going on in our national forest, specifically the SAM, with our forest rangers. Don't know what it is. I might not want to know, but it has gotten to the point to where certain people have to wear body cams when they go out into the SAM
Hmm.
because of they're being harassed, not just by the rangers, but law enforcement. And the first time I ever heard people tell these stories, I thought, man, y'all are so full of shit. Y'all are just looking for attention. You're making the story more than what it really is. But when I started getting involved with the coalition, these people are not making that up.
Right.
There are other people who are not Bigfooters who are volunteering their time and their resources to go clean up Kelly's Pond, especially Kelly's Pond, because there's no host out there, right?
Right.
And they're being harassed by the forest department, telling them to leave, even though they have an approved permit to do it. They're being asked to leave, and they get pulled over by law enforcement on their way out. So I don't know what's going on. I know a lot of Bigfooters are being harassed.
Mhm.
I'm not going to name this guy, but there's one guy who he's an assistant to the line officer. You know who you are, asshole. Uh, sorry. Yeah, if he ever listens to the show, um, he harasses a lot of people. Me and Michelle were out there doing a Veterans Appreciation Day, and we were about to start work. I don't know if anybody knows about this, but they're trying to make a veterans reflection area right out of Kegel. Um, if you see the plans for this, oh my God, it's beautiful. It
Hmm.
is the most beautiful thing that's ever going to be. And it's for veterans, it's a trail, and they'll have benches all along for them to sit. There's going to be a reflection area, and it's also going to be accessible by those veterans who are in wheelchairs, and just this elaborate, beautiful place. So we went out there to discuss uh, one of the footbridges. It needs to be repaired, replaced, whatever. How are we going to do this? So we surveyed it. And what's happening on this trail is that the water is coming in at both ends of the bridge. So the one thing we have to do, and in national forest, they want you to use natural materials. Okay, they really don't want you using anything that's false. But sometimes you can't get around that, and you have to just do temporary things. So we had a company donate all of this fiberglass grating. So we were going to build cages out of this grating, and then pack it with limestone and pack it underneath the bridge. And then what we were going to do is this other company had this little bobcat, I guess they're called, and we were going to redirect the water to go into the creek instead of at the bridge.
Right.
Still natural. And so this company had we call it tie strap, not tie strap, banded, because you use a machine for banding, I think. They had banded all of these grates on this trailer, and we unloaded it. And then the vice president of the Sam Houston Trails Coalition had bought himself all of this limestone. So this huge dump truck came in and dumped it right there. We were about to start work, and here comes one of the people and informed us we had to leave immediately and wouldn't give us a reason.
Hmm.
And we had a veteran there, Mr. Robinson, or he's the one that spearheaded this whole thing. He's a Vietnam vet, and he was so excited that this was finally start. He's been doing this for 8 years. In 8 years, he's been shut down by the Forest Department. And we have the clear to build this. And so just to see his face and to see him cry, he shed a tear because we were being shut down with no reason whatsoever. And we had to load all those grates back up, and we couldn't put them all back on because it took that banding machine to keep them on that trailer. So we could only load like 3 or 4. And then he had Mr. Robbins had a little house down there. You probably know it, Sunshine Network. When you're going to the Sam and there's that roundabout.
Yeah.
Tiny house with the chain link.
Yeah.
That's his place.
Okay.
And that's where we kept it for the longest time. And that project has stalled anything that we've done. You know, the Stubblefield Bridge, how it's out.
Yeah.
Well, they say now it's going to be built next year. I'm like, yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But to hear the Walker County, now I know I'm getting into a little stuff here, but I don't care. I want everybody to know. Walker County Commissioner, he and his crew were out surveying their side of the Stubblefield Bridge, the other side of San Jacinto County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, understand this. If you're camping at Stubblefield campgrounds and you have an accident, how's the ambulance going to get to you? It's got to go all the way around 1375. Mm-hmm. And it's got to go down that long-ass dirt road. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It can't just come across the bridge on 1374 because the bridge is out.
Right.
If something happens, you're screwed. All the people that live back there, they have to go all the way around to get to work. They can't just go over the bridge. So Walker County Commissioner is telling me that he and his crew were out there surveying their side, and federal agents descended upon them with guns drawn and told them to leave the area immediately. And he said, well, this is my county. He said, and they said, we don't care. This is our forest. And they had to leave. The project manager, he's had guns drawn on him by federal agents. Maybe you don't want this on your show. Too late now.
No. Because I was going to tell you, because we talked about this before too at the when we met up, and I told you that my buddy had the U.S. Marshal right down where he was at investigating a sighting.
Yeah.
So yeah, who would think a U.S. Marshal would be involved in this?
And why?
Yeah.
Why are they involved?
Exactly.
And it's a lot. Well, you remember when I saw you at Kelly's Pond, I was with that person.
Right.
We were there. There was a lady who, her and her 2 kids were cleaning up the pond, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was there as a witness. That's it. That's why I set my butt down in the chair the whole time. I was there strictly as a witness, acting like just a person that was there, even though they know who I am. Mm-hmm. Just to make sure that nothing happened to her and her kids, that she wasn't approached. Mm-hmm. But I think if all those motorcyclists hadn't been there that day, she may have.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only reason I was there that day, just to be a witness in case anything happened. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I myself have not been harassed like some of the people I've heard. There are some people I know that don't even live here. And when they come to the SAM, they immediately get pulled over. Mm. I'm not harassed like that.
Right.
He said, the person I was with that day, the only thing he told me is that, yes, they know who you are. And I'm like, okay, good for them. I mean, should I invite them over for tea and coffee? I don't know. I'm not hiding nothing. But I did tell him, I said, look, with all the crap that's going on, what's it going to take for you to stop? Mm-hmm. We're the Sam Houston Trails Coalition is only the second one in the entire nation that has volunteers clean up our trails and keep them nice so that we can use them. We're the only second one in the nation that does that. And this guy, he's the one that created that here. And he gets a lot of crap, I can tell you that. And I asked him, what's it going to take for you to stop? And he has since stopped. I'm not going to tell you what he's doing now. I'll tell you privately. But he's doing something that's going to turn it upside down. Upside down.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I hope he's successful at it.
And you know, the thing is that I listened to Tim's sermons once on Sasquatch Chronicles, and before we did Footstock, we were having some permitting issues, and we went down to the forest department and I recorded the entire thing. And everything that Tim said was already happening to us. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to have federal agents descend upon us like they did them. We were all freaked out at first Footstock. Nothing happened, thank God.
Yeah.
But we didn't need permits as long as it was where people pulled their money.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like the Boy Scouts do. As long as you pull your money, you're safe. But we were so scared that, okay, any moment now, they're going to come and get us.
Twice, one time it was like at midnight. The other time it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We were out and we had a parabolic dish, and we were out there. One time we were way at the end of the equestrian trail one night.
Yeah.
And then the other night we were, that road that takes you to Kelly's Pond, that you keep going down. Okay, we were way down on that one. And twice we had park rangers roll up on us, And so when I was telling people about this, they were looking at me like, park rangers don't work that late. I'm like, well, I'm telling you, they were out there. They came right to us. And when we were over by Kelly's Pond, we were way at the end, like I said, on that road. He pulls up. And I had my pistol on me, so when I saw the truck coming, I got my license out, and I got my license to carry out, and I stuck it on the hood of my car. And she's like, "What are you guys doing out here?" And I said, "We're just trying to listen to the sounds of nature." And he got this big smile. And he goes, "You guys hear anything you're not supposed to be hearing?" Like that. He had this big smile when he said that. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
And it was a woman?
No, it was a guy.
Oh.
Both times were a guy. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Because you guys hear anything you're not supposed to be hearing? And then he had a big smile on his face when he said that. I said, no, we're just
telling you.
Yeah.
They got it out for Bigfooters. And for people who like to keep our trails clean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I saw you, or no. What was it? I had to go out there. The guy called me and said, hey, can you go to Trailhead? I think it was like 15 or 14. I don't remember. He said, there's so much trash out there. So I go out there in the little kiosk. There's trash everywhere. I'm like, y'all do know that kiosk is not for trash.
Yeah, I think I took a picture of that.
Yeah,
that was a Trailhead 6. It was so overflowing.
God,
yeah.
I'm way off.
Yeah.
15. Yeah. What? See how I am. And so I'm like, that kiosk is for you to put your information
in there. Yeah.
So that when you go out and you don't come back, or someone doesn't know if you were there or not, we know.
Right.
And now we know where to start looking. And here's my beef about the whole thing. Even if it is a trash can and you put your trash in there, if it's full, why are you still trying to shove trash in it?
Yeah, and it was not so much that they were trying to, it was all over the ground everywhere. Yeah,
you alerted that, right?
Yeah.
That was you, right? Yeah, that's right. So I'll just call him Mr. E. I told Mr. E, all right, I'm going down to this trailhead, and I sent him the pictures, and he was like, good God. I said, I know, I don't pack it in, pack it out.
Yeah.
That's our biggest motto, pack it in, pack it out.
Yeah.
So, but people don't clean up after themselves. And, there was one time I got a call from one of my buddies, and he said, I started in at Winter's Bayou. Now he hikes everywhere. He's amazing. Takes his dog with him. He said, I started out at Winter's Bayou. I knew exactly where that was. He said, now I've sprained my ankle. I'm like, uh-oh, you can't get out. He said, I'm gonna need assistance. I said, okay. So I called Michelle. We tried to get a guy. We couldn't find anybody. Everybody was at work or whatever. So I asked him to drop a pin if he had service, and he did, thank God. So he dropped a pin and he sent it to me. And we went to a trailhead where we thought he was. Michelle did a Bigfoot call, and he answered right away.
That's funny. That's
That's
funny.
how we found him. And so he was able to get to the trailhead. But yeah, his hiking was over for that. For that time. Yeah, it was, his ankle was a little swollen up. And he ended up staying with me and Kenny for a couple of days, and then he went off with some of his friends. But yeah, I mean, you just, this whole thing, you get more into than just Bigfoot.
Right.
You get involved with Bigfoot, and then here I am involved with the Sam Houston Trails Coalition. Now here I am trying to rescue someone off the trail. You just don't ever know what direction your life is going to go when you get into Bigfoot.
Right. And something I tell everyone all the time. I mean, how many people have you met that are like your friend? You know what I'm saying? Not just acquaintance.
Yeah.
Like I would have never met you. I would never met
Exactly.
Big Dog. Lupe. My friend Shane. I mean, I can go on and on. People that I've known for years and years now.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, the Bigfoot community is the people that we hang out with and that we know and we talk to. Man, y'all are more like family than anything.
Yeah.
We look so much forward to going to the conferences and just hanging out with people. I don't care if I see a presentation. I just want to hang out with y'all, and just talk and catch up and hear some stories and see what's going on. We're doing Squatch Dogs. We're sponsoring the bonfire again at the Texas Bigfoot Conference. It'll be that Saturday night. And that's the kind of stuff that I look forward to. Yeah. Just to sit down with everybody and hang out and whatever. That's why we're always trying to do lunches. Jeff Stewart and Jason Counts, they went to what's that called? That new
Bigfoot
place?
Bites. Bigfoot Bites. Yeah.
Bigfoot Bites in Nacogdoches. Yeah.
I need to make a trip up there.
Yeah, and I'm like, why we need to be doing this here? And we tried to do it one time, and then it fell apart. I don't remember what happened. Something happened. But yeah, just even if we just hook up for the day and just have lunch and hang out and whatever.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's great. We can network.
Yeah.
I might have a case for you to say, hey, this lady called me in Timbuktu. Do you want it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But cool, man. I think we went well over our time, but it was well worth it. Actually, I think we could probably go another 2 hours.
No doubt, yeah.
But thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. You're a blast to talk to. You're a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You have any parting words?
Y'all just be careful and stay armed and aware of your surroundings and stop drawing red circles around everything.
Yeah. What about contact information? You have anything you want to?
Oh, well, I mean, God, there's so many ways to find us. Squatch Dogs. I have a business page on Facebook. You can't make any comments on that one, but I do have a Squatch Dogs group, and that's the name of it, Squatch Dogs Group. You can join that. You can find our podcast, Mysterious Woods, on Anchor, Spotify, Overcast, Radio Public, so many places. We actually have a Facebook page, but we don't tell people about it.
Yeah.
Me and Big Dog are the only ones on it. But if you want to join, that would be great. Squatch Dogs is on Twitter. We are on YouTube. And my newest venture, shameless plug. Here it comes. Cryptid Chick. I'm starting a new clothing line for men, women, and children, and it'll be, your basic stuff: mugs, towels, t-shirts, crap like that. So that'll be coming out soon. Big
Okay,
foot.
cool. Cool. Well, I think we're just about out of time. I don't know what that noise is. You hear it?
It's my computer.
Oh, okay.
It's revving up.
Okay, let's get ready to go. Well, all right. Thank you for joining us, Ann. It was a pleasure, like I said, and we need to do this again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know we got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
But all right, guys, y'all have a good one, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.